Shamal Shadori, Ron Glazier, Noreen Hannafin, and Jeanette Sasso? Santaswasso, thank you. So just take a moment of silence for those four individuals, Burlington residents. Thank you. Thank you very much. General apologies, everybody. We were across the street at the Common celebrating India's Independence Day. So for those of you who don't know, August 15th was 75 years ago was the day that India, through peaceful protest and civil unrest, won its independence. So we were down there, and it's never easy to run away from a fun event. So, all right. First on the docket, Citizens Time, 584. Is anybody here who'd like to speak upon Citizens Time? Yes, sir. Please come up here, grab a seat, identify yourself.
My name is Sunil Prajapati. I'm a town resident. And I would like to speak about the racism that is prevailing in the town. I will need about 30 minutes to speak. How much time can I have?
You have 3 minutes.
Okay, so 3 minutes is not enough, but I will do my best. I want to talk about the racism and humiliation I received on June 16 during a planning board meeting. Again, it will not be enough. 3 minutes will not be enough, but that is one of the reasons why I choose to run for the board seat. And I would greatly appreciate if you select me for the board seat, because the planning board needs a lot of reform. It needs reform in terms of the bureaucracy. It needs reforms in terms of the efficiency. And the most importantly, it needs reforms in terms of the racism that is prevailing there. And it is not just the planning board. The racism prevails in building department. It prevails in fire department. And the complaint we raised have gone nowhere. The town thinks that the complaints are taken very seriously, but nothing got investigated. No one ever asked me why there is racism. And it goes on and on. We've been a victim of that for more than 5 years. And I believe if nothing happens, then we'll be a victim of that for another 5 years and for the rest of our life. That's what I want to speak. And then I would like 30 minutes maybe in one of the meetings to explain these things in detail.
Okay, so Mr. Prajapati, is that as much as you'd like to say right at this moment?
I want to speak more, but 3 minutes are only for me. I will have to organize my thoughts.
Okay.
So I will need 30 minutes, please.
Okay. If you have specific personnel issues, we can set up a meeting.
It's not a personal issue. It was a humiliation in a public meeting by the chair of the board on June 16.
Okay.
In a public meeting. It was a racism.
Okay.
There are covert racism and there are overt racism. Most of the time it is covert, very difficult to prove. But this was an overt racism that happened in public meeting, and the recording is available. And I want to speak about that.
Okay.
And it was by the chair of the board himself at that day, at that moment, yeah. And that is why I choose to run. They know the kind of reforms I will try to bring, and they have shut down my application.
Okay.
And I request my opponent to step away so I can be on the board and the reforms that we need for the town come. It is very required. America in general is a land of immigrants. We know that. Currently, 1 in 7 American is an immigrant, is a foreign-born person. That is in general in America. That is as per the census data. In our town particular, it's more than 1 in 5. 1 in 5 is a foreign-born person. There is very little representation in this thing, in this whole sitting that we see right now. Very little representative of a foreign-born person. What happened on June 16? It made me think on that day. I went home and I cried and cried and cried. I thought that wish I was born as a white man with blue eye and I would have not suffered this discrimination and this public humiliation. But it still happened. And it's going to go on unless we do something about it. And that is the reason why I should be on the board and I can work with the board members and make some reforms. You know, it will take generations and years, but at least I can bring some reforms.
Okay. All right, Mr. Prajapati, typically we don't respond during citizens' time so that we can formulate a response afterwards. If you like, you and I can talk afterwards and we can see where we go from there.
That will be great. I would appreciate that opportunity, and I would also appreciate 30 minutes of time in one of the town meeting, maybe next 2 weeks from now or whenever the next meeting is, so I can speak about those.
Okay, we can talk further and plan something.
Sounds great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here for citizens' time in the room? Online? Yes. Patricia, is that you?
Yes.
You got 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. One, I just wanted to talk, give a shout out to John Sanchez and Tom Hayes. The work they're doing at the bottom of Peach Orchard, I think is a great solution. And I had raised it, a few months back. And so I appreciate them going back to the drawing board and finding a solution that will benefit pedestrians. Two, I know you're talking about the water ban. And I just hope that we do more work in terms of educating residents about conservation inside the house as well. I am shocked at the people who are shocked that we have a drought. And I just think we need something more visible, something more tangible for people to really understand the gravity of the situation. And three, just kind of in response to the gentleman who just spoke, I was thinking about the flag issue and all the raw emotion that showed up at the board meeting when we were talking about the flag policy on the common. And clearly, there are people in our community who have been hurt from their experiences here. And I know you're also working with the DEI committee and trying to do something on that front. But that's a lot of work for the select board and for, a resident committee to get to the bottom of what we might need to do as a community. So I'd just like to suggest to the board that they think about hiring some sort of consultant to look into this, because it's a deep issue, not easy to be solved, and we need some professional guidance. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? No?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, moving on real quick, just so everyone's aware, Jim Tigas is with us remotely, so everything tonight will be roll call votes. All right, moving on to the planning board vacancy. We have our current planning board with us. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Appreciate it. What we're going to do is we're going to quickly review the process with which we got here, and then we are going to move forward. So just to be clear, as it states in Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 11, and I'm going to go ahead and read this so everyone can hear it in full. As used in this section, the term, quote, vacancy includes a failure to elect if a vacancy occurs in a town office other than the office of selectman, town clerk, treasurer, collector of taxes, or auditor. The selectman shall, in writing, appoint a person to fill such vacancy. If there is a vacancy in a board consisting of 2 or more members, except a board whose members have been elected by proportional representation under Chapter 54A, the remaining members shall give written notice thereof within 1 month of said vacancy to the selectman, who, with the remaining members, member or members of such board, shall, after 1 week's notice, fill such vacancy by roll call vote. The selectman shall fill such vacancy if such board fails to give the said notice within the time herein specified. A majority of the votes of the officers entitled to vote shall be necessary to such election. The person so appointed or elected shall be a registered voter of the town and shall perform the duties of the office until the next annual meeting or until another one is qualified. And then just to specify, as it was amended in, I believe, 2019, perhaps 2020, our general bylaw, I believe it's 110, filling vacancies other than selectmen if there's a failure to elect or if a vacancy occurs in any elected town office other than office of selectman, town clerk, or auditor, the selectman shall fill a vacancy in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 11. Vacancies for appointed positions shall be filled by the appointing authority of the office, board, commission, or committee. So, because that's fantastically vague, Chairperson Rappaport and myself got together and said, okay, is there a way we can do this that has both of the boards a little bit more involved? I think that it's incumbent upon the select board to solve for this. I think that there should be more town specificity when it comes to the appointing of elected roles, regardless of how long that may take. But I'm just going to read into the record what Brenda and I agreed upon. Planning board will announce a seat opening at the normally scheduled planning board meeting. Applicants will apply using the questionnaire previously used by the planning board. 2 chairs will each appoint 3 members of their boards to serve on a subcommittee to interview all eligible applicants. The interview process will occur in a publicly posted but not televised, actually wound up being, I believe, televised, meeting at the date agreed upon by both chairs. After conducting interviews, the subcommittee will discuss the candidates and make recommendations to the planning board. The planning board will then schedule another publicly posted meeting at which all remaining planning board members will discuss applicants and vote on one applicant to send forward to the joint committee for voting. If the planning board decides to send forward 2 applicants, it may do so at its own discretion. 2 chairs will schedule a joint meeting, which is where we are right now, both boards at which the candidate or candidates chosen by the planning board are voted upon by all present. So, with that, Brenda.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Jessica Sutherland, would you please join us at the microphone over here? And for the record, if you please state your name. Is here good? Yep, thank you.
Hello, Jessica Sutherland. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. So, Chairman Priest, as Chairman Priest had explained, we decided on a process. We had a lot of very amazing applicants. Unfortunately, there's only 1 seat. Good news is that, next April will be up for election, and there's going to be amazing seats for any candidate who is interested in joining whatever capacity of town government that they would appreciate doing so. That being said, the planning board had felt that Jessica Sutherland would be a great fit at this time for the seat. So, that being said.
Madam Chair and Mr. Chair, I would like to nominate Jessica Sutherland for the open seat on planning board.
Second.
Okay. We have a nomination and a second. Yes, sir.
A couple of questions before
Sure.
we keep going. Could you read aloud the vote of the interview subcommittee before we proceed?
Yeah, the subcommittee voted, I believe it was 3-2-1. 3 for Mr. Hartling, 2 for Ms. Sutherland, and 1 for Mr. Kelly.
So, if the planning board, just question the process here, seems a little off the tracks from what we typically do. If the planning board has already deliberated and voted on a candidate, I don't understand what the purpose of the meeting is here tonight.
At the very least, fulfilling our obligation to Mass General Law.
Are we accepting other nominations?
That wasn't necessarily the agreed upon process.
I thought the entire board is allowed to nominate whoever they like. It's always been the process 10 years I've been here.
Okay. I mean, under Mass General Law, I believe that it can't be unallowed. Am I correct in that, Paul?
I think anybody can, any of the elected members could nominate somebody in this meeting.
Point of order, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I made a motion and it was seconded. I think we need to vote.
We're not done yet.
Discussion on the motion.
We have discussion on the motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we nominate Chris Hartling for the seat on the planning board.
Okay, so we have, so you're now making a motion.
Correct.
Okay, so we then, point of order, we need to follow through with the first motion first.
How do we know who the candidates are yet? There may be other motions from other board members.
With all due respect, through the chair, if that was that much of an interest, you should have attended some of the meetings.
Please don't school me on procedure.
It's not a matter of procedure.
Chairwoman.
I respectfully, this has been a very difficult process, and the chair and I have agreed upon a process prior to this. We've also discussed visiting with other boards throughout the community to discuss a new process, and potentially bringing something to a warrant in January, because things are a little bit unclear, but both chairs have decided what the process was going to be. And we're following Mass General Law.
Not sure we are.
The appointments have been very different from when I was appointed, when Tony Ann was appointed, and now where we are right now. So where we decided to stop the bleeding, so to say, that we were going to decide on a process, follow through with the process, and that's where we are today. So going forward in January, should we be able to develop a warrant to submit to town meeting to define that process and make it extremely clear for all parties involved, then that's what we do moving forward. But at this point in time, this is what was agreed upon by your chair and myself.
I also, Mike, just, I mean, you know, people can vote how they wish, but, you know, Mr. Hartling actually had emailed several of us asking for clarification around the process. You know, at which point I also made clear to him that, you know, subcommittees are created all the time, and the reporting board does not have to take the recommendation of that committee. So while it was a 3-2-1 vote, you know, the planning board then decides after the discussion what they wish to do. Now, a point has been raised to me that, you know, because you want diversity, right, and you want that democratic process to occur, that a board picking the person that they're going to appoint for whatever time is left on whoever's, you know, remaining term is inherently undemocratic in and of itself, which, you know, 3 years ago was, you know, when I first said, geez, maybe we should find a better way to iron out this process, right? Now as chair, I have that opportunity. It just so happens that we've been back to back with double appointments and we haven't had the opportunity, the runway to actually have those conversations. So, you know, that's kind of where things netted out. I mean, I'm open to discussion, but,
Well, I agree with you that the law can be interpreted differently. I'm just going on, historically, it's not been done this way before. And I believe everybody who applied should have an opportunity, if they have someone amongst this joint meeting to put forward their name, they should have that opportunity.
I don't disagree with you, which is why my take on the process moving forward needs to be different. It's been suggested to me by several folks that we take a more collaborative approach to the development of that, but this is not the time for that conversation. Barbara, I saw you put your hand up.
It appears that Mr. Venyon has raised the question of the legality of the process, so I just wanted to offer that town council did weigh in and agreed that the process was legal and fair.
Ernie, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. I don't know if this helps at all. Do you think maybe instead of opening the floor for motions, you might have opened the floor for nominations? Because obviously we can't have two motions on the floor at the same time. But you could have, that's completely up to you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe I'm muddying the waters, and if I am,
No,
I'm sorry.
procedurally, you're on the right track. It's just a question of, you know, whether or not we want to do that, you know, and now I find myself in a position where, you know, two chairs of two boards agreed to a process. We've gone through that process. We've reached the end of that process, almost. And now we're experiencing a moment where there's questions about that process, which I completely understand and appreciate because, quite frankly, the process sucks. Yep. You know, and there was no clean way in or out of this process. You know, so I completely understand where Mike, you're coming from. You know, but I also don't want to be a man not of my word, you know, sure. That when we entered into this agreement, you know, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, whatever it was, that the understanding was is that, you know, this is how things would be set forth. You know, so.
And maybe just further to that point that you were making earlier, you might want to, are you going to get the General Bylaw Review Committee involved in that situation also?
Yeah, I think
it would be a change to the General Bylaw, would it not?
Absolutely,
okay.
Yeah, it's a very heavy change, for sure. But I mean, look, you know, at the end of the day, I personally believe that, you know, we would hold a meeting like this with all 11 of us, and we'd bring in all the applicants, and the 11 of us would spend 5 hours interviewing, discussing, and voting. And, you know, to me, for, you know, appointing an elected position, that's as close to an election, a public election, as you're going to get. But we're not going to open that can of worms right now because it's not worth the debate, because that's not what we're here to talk about. Mm-hmm. What we're here to discuss is the candidate to fill this open particular seat for the planning board.
So I have made a motion and it was seconded. I'm requesting that you call a vote.
Okay. So a motion's been made and seconded. We have to do roll call vote. This is for, I'm sorry, what was the motion again, Barbara? We've been around.
I nominated Jessica Sutherland for the open planning board seat.
Okay, a motion to nominate Jessica to the open seat.
Well, I nominate her, so the motion is to vote on her nomination.
Okay. Okay.
Is it a nomination or is it a motion? It's both in one? If you're making nominations, I'd like the opportunity to make a nomination as well.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know what exactly the right words are, so I made a motion that I am nominating Jessica Sutherland. It's been seconded. I'm asking for a vote.
All right, let's start there.
Okay.
All right. Roll call vote. We'll go planning board, then select board. Mr. Gaffney.
Yes.
Mr. Impemba.
Yes.
Mr. Tola.
Yes.
Mr. Covino.
Yes.
Ms. LaRue.
Yes.
Ms. Rappaport.
Yes.
Mr. Tigas.
No.
Mr. Runyon.
No.
Mr. Morandi.
Oh.
Mr. Espejo.
I disagree with the process, but as respect to the chair, yes.
Okay. Chair votes aye. That is quick math. 8 in favor, 9 opposed. I'm sorry. 8 in favor, 3 opposed. That's what I get for doing quick math. Okay, so that was a motion to nominate.
So I think
No, I think that was a motion to appoint.
it was a point.
Motion to appoint.
It was a motion.
I want to clarify. All right. Ms. Sullivan, congratulations. Ms. Tigas.
Are we not allowed to discuss this at all?
We were just discussing it, Jim.
No, we never had none of the members really had an option to discuss. There was a motion made right away, but no one was given an opportunity to discuss it.
I feel like you're asking the question 10 seconds too late, Jim.
Well, I mean, it's a point of order. No one got a chance to discuss it. That's a fact.
Do you want to discuss it retroactively? Because the vote's been taken.
Well, that would be kind of foolish to talk about something if it's a done deal.
Right, which is why I'm asking why you're asking now.
Because I wasn't given the opportunity to ask earlier.
Would have recognized you, Jim, if you did.
Well, Mr. Runyon was that recognized, and he tried to discuss it. And again, motion was made and seconded without anybody getting an opportunity to discuss. I just don't think that's the democratic process.
Right, but Jim, that was the whole point of the subcommittee. The 3 of us sat and discussed with the other 3 members of the planning board. The planning board discussed it. So, I mean, he as a select board been given a lot of opportunity to discuss it. And when Mike was talking, you had plenty of opportunity to jump in at that point as well.
No, I couldn't. No. And again, as you said, the reason for the subcommittee, is to make a recommendation, and they did, and that went nowhere.
Okay. Anything further, Jim?
I just think we weren't given a fair opportunity to discuss the matter before a motion was made and seconded. That's all.
Joe, I saw you raising your hand.
Yes, you did. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, congratulations.
No reflection on Jessica.
This country could go on for the next 45 minutes. So, I don't agree with the process. I think she's a wonderful candidate. I said right from the beginning, I said either Mr. Howling or her would be the 2 best candidates for the board. I'm happy with either one of them. I think you're going to do a great job on the board, but as far as this issue goes, the way its process is taken, there's been 2 different times since I've been in here. This is the second time. You're right, it needs to be relooked at and done over again for the proper way for both boards to be excited about it. The last time we voted, we had 2 candidates in front of us, and we all voted for whichever candidate we thought. So basically what happened this time was the planning board brought us this candidate, that's what they voted for, and that's what we voted on.
Right.
So that's the way it goes right now. I'd like to congratulate her. I'd like to end this discussion. There's no reason to go any further than this. I think that she's going to do a great job, and I think Mr. Hartling would have done a great job. So congratulations, and I'm all done talking.
Well, I think we can end on a high note and say congratulations, Jessica.
And congratulations, Jessica.
Congratulations.
I'm sorry to have to put you.
I'd just like to say one thing. As a person who was recently selected to the board right before her, I hope everyone does get the process done much better, because I think it's a shame for the candidate to come before the board and be put through that. It should be a time that you're sort of going to celebrate that you were nominated and that's been all taken away, the way the board handles it,
I don't disagree with you.
both times.
But I mean, also, to be fair, discussion's allowed. And,
I agree, but I just
we're
think.
allowed to have, the conversation in full view of the public, which is the whole point. And if somebody's gonna run for an elected position, they go through the same rigmarole, they go through an even harder rigmarole than they would if they were in front of 11 of us on camera. So I appreciate where you're coming from the empathetic standpoint that we made Jessica sit here while we debated whether or not she was a viable candidate or the process. And Jessica, thank you for sitting nicely about that. But I also want to stand by the fact that, we all agree the process is, a whole lot of bupkis and a whole lot of malarkey, and we're going to try to work towards fixing it. So I do appreciate what you're saying, but I also want to be clear that, we're gonna work toward making repairs.
I know that, and I appreciate you trying to do that, and I know you were put in a very awkward situation to have to say that, at the last hour.
No, I mean, anything in plain view of the public's a little awkward, but that's the job we signed up for, so.
That's why you get the big money.
That's why, Ernie. All right, thank you all for coming out tonight, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, folks.
All right, we're gonna jump right on, yeah, go ahead, Joe. I was asked to, can I take you now? Okay. All right, Amy, come on up, 586 approval of election items.
Lost quorum.
No, Jim's still here, we still have quorum. We almost lost quorum. Amy, welcome, thank you for coming.
Thank you
What you got for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board, for the time. Just a few issues that I had to review or go over with you. First off, setting the date for the election, which they both left, but the new planning board people will need to be running. The town election in 2023 will be April 1st. That's a Saturday. It's the first Saturday in April. So that date is also going to be on the warrant, so you go from there. The second thing is in conjunction with the elections, all elections, there is a motion in front of you that I need to have signed by the board in regards to police coverage for elections. Due to the new election law that was passed a month or so ago, they have changed one of the sections. Prior to this change, the chief of police or their designee worked with the town clerk to set up police coverage for an election. But the new election law requires the select board to make that determination. Now, since you all kind of have no idea how many police officers I need for an election, I've put a motion in front of you all that would allow us to continue for it to be working with the police chief or their designee to set up the number of police officers we use during an election. So I just need to have a motion on that, or you have the motion in front of you. I need to have a vote on that, and I have to submit that to the Secretary of State's office.
Yes, indeed. And then the other two things?
Okay, the other two things.
All right.
Okay.
Do you want me to read it into the record?
So I need to, why don't you take that vote now,
You want
because.
to do that specifically?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Mike.
The next piece is a little more complicated.
Gotcha.
Designated select board reader, I'll read this into the record.
Okay.
Town of Burlington, Burlington, Mass., from the Office of Select Board and Town Administrator. Action is requested in response to the changes to Section 72 of MGL 54, which now charges the Select Board, rather in person in charge of the police force, when dealing a sufficient number of police officers or constables for each polling location. I recommend the following action. I move to approve a sufficient number of police officers, but not less than 2, at the polling location of every election therein to preserve order and protect the election officers and supervisors from any interference with their duties and to aid in enforcing the laws relating to elections as required by Section 72 of MGL Chapter 54, which was changed in Section 13 of Chapter 92 of the Acts of 2022. Further, move to designate the police chief or their designee the authority to assign specific police officers according to scheduling and availability. The town clerk will advise the police chief or their designee on the location and the time the officer is needed.
Okay, motion has been made.
Second?
Motion been made and seconded. Do a roll call vote. Jim?
Aye.
Mike?
Yes.
Mike Runyon?
Aye.
Okay. Mike Espejo?
Aye.
Joe Morandi?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, 5-0-0.
Okay, thank you. Now, the second piece is, for the November ballot, we will have a question that is related only to Burlington. And that is the question about Community Preservation Act funds, okay? Normally, with a question, you're all familiar with the little red and gray booklet that we get from the Secretary of State. That covers all questions that are for statewide. But we accepted back in 1998 a special act that requires the town to send out to every voter resident a written piece with the question and the pro and con statements about the question. If you remember, we did this when we had the question about whether to convert the treasurer, the tax collector's position from elected to appointed. So we are required to do this. We do have a pro and a con side that are interested in writing these discussions. We have to give them 14 days in advance of producing the piece. They need to come up with 250 words or less, and then legal counsel reviews it and okays it, we print it, and we have to mail it out. So I just want to make you aware that this is what has to be done. I've got all the kind of pieces and parts put together. The only thing is this has to be mailed out at least 10 days prior to the election. And I'm asking the Secretary of State's office for clarification, because with vote by mail and early voting, we need to do it 10 days before when? If we waited until 10 days before the election, we're in the middle of early voting, and vote by mail has already happened. So I'm getting that clarification. I've estimated that mailing out a piece, we have roughly 7,800 households with a voter in it. And so roughly that's will cost us in a mailing and production of about $5,500. So I'm just wanting to make you all aware of, those are all the pieces that we have to do. Most of them are put together, but there'll be some funding that needs to be done or given for that. So just wanted to make you aware of that, or any questions you might have on it.
Any questions on that, gentleman?
I will defer to the town administrator on the funding aspect of the request. The budget, put it that way. Okay. The budget.
We will find the money in the budget. In the event that we don't, we can talk to the Ways and Means Committee.
Okay.
Other places will find the money.
Yeah.
We'll find it.
Okay.
I know in the past it wasn't a problem, but just to make you all aware that it's going to be happening. And then the last thing here is to just confirm the date for the September town meeting. We haven't printed the warrant, or it hasn't been set yet by you all, but due to the fact that Rosh Hashanah falls on the Monday, September 26th, town meeting this year will start on September 28th, which is the Wednesday. It's part of our bylaws. It says it's the fourth Monday normally of September, unless it falls on either a civil or a religious holiday. So that will be on the 28th. And again, you all confirmed that we could have town meeting starting at 7 p.m. So that'll be the time and the date. That's all I have for now.
Okay.
Any other questions for me, or?
Any other questions, gentlemen? Doing good? Good? All right.
Okay.
All right, Amy.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Amy.
All right, next up, 587, we got some appointments for the DPW. Mr. Sanchez, you out there? Yes, thank you. Come on down.
So, just working, I guess. Good evening. So we have 4 appointments tonight to the DPW, and I want to start actually with one that is just a transfer, and that is of Mike Rose. who is actually transferring from our sewer section of the water and sewer division to the water section. So it's a lateral move. We interviewed for this position, and he's definitely qualified for it. So I'm recommending that we approve that transfer. He's not present tonight at the meeting. He's actually on vacation, but we'd like to do that tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With John's recommendation, I appoint Michael Rose to the position of Water System Maintenance Craftsman in the DPW Water Division and ask that the board waive its 15-day waiting period.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Roll call vote. Jim? Aye. Mike Runyon?
Yes.
Mike Espejo?
Aye.
Joe Moretti?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. 5-0-0.
Thank you. And then I want to acknowledge that we do have members of the department, what is highway, water, sewer, as well as facilities here tonight with us for the following 3 appointments that we have. So I want to start with building maintenance craftsman, David Swift, who had joined us a few years ago, finally retired a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to fill that position with Anthony DeSimone, Frank Anderson, Brian White, an operations manager, and I did interviews on August 5th for this position. We had several candidates applying for it. But Mr. DeSimone has vast experience when it comes to construction. He also worked in the school department, in the maintenance department, and he has recently obtained a construction supervisor's license, which it will be a very good thing to have when you're going to work in facilities. He also has experience in HVAC, which again, it'll really help us out with this department. So with that, I'm recommending him for the position of building maintenance craftsman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With John's recommendation, I appoint Anthony DeSimone to the position of Building Maintenance Craftsman Laborer in the DPW Cemeteries and Buildings Division and ask that the board waive its 15-day waiting period.
Moved. Second. Motion's been moved and seconded. Jim? Aye. Mike Runyon?
Yes.
Mike Espejo?
Yes.
Joe Moretti?
Yes.
Chair votes aye. 5-0-0. Anthony, congratulations.
Anthony, there we go.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck over there, Anthony.
Mr. Sanchez, who's next?
So thank you. The next position is Special Motor Equipment Operator Highway. For this position, we actually did not have any candidates from within our union, but we did have a candidate who has just about 6 months ago joined us in the Water and Sewer Division as a laborer. So, and this is Daniel P. Matarazzo. So Dan has taken upon himself to actually obtain the licenses that he needs to work in the highway department. He does have now a CDL license as well as a 2A hoisting license. He has proven to be dependable, and I recommend him for the position of Special Motor Equipment Operator Highway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With John's recommendation, I appoint Daniel Matarazzo to the position of Special Motor Equipment Operator Laborer in the DPW Highway Division and ask that the board waive its 15-day waiting period.
So moved.
Okay, motion been moved and seconded. Jim?
Aye.
Mike Ryan?
Yes.
Mike Espejo?
Aye.
Joe Moretti?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. 5-0-0.
Thank you. And
Congrats, nice job taking the initiative. I'm moving right up the ladder. Good for you.
thank you. And then we have one more, and this is a water treatment plant operator. We have had positions vacant for quite a while right now, but we were lucky enough to find Paul Cardas. If I said that right. Thank you, Paul. Paul actually grew up here in Burlington, and he got his license as well as a BS in environmental sciences from UMass as Lowell. He has currently has a T2 license, but he has applied for the T3, which is the license that is required to operate our Mill Pond treatment facility. So I'm very excited to recommend Paul for this position of water treatment plant operator.
Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With John's recommendation, I appoint Paul Cardas to the position of Water Treatment Plant Operator in the DPW Water Division and ask that the board waive its 15-day waiting period.
So moved.
Second. Okay, moved and seconded. Jim?
Aye.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Spaho?
Yes.
Mr. Morandi?
Yes.
Chair votes aye, 5-0-0.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Watch the water. Answer the lights.
Thank you, Paul.
All right.
Okay.
That takes care of the appointments, right, John? No more?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
It's
We only
like,
have
it's like you
4.
save them for us and you just come with everybody. No, it's great.
It's not going anywhere.
588, update approval water ban. This is everyone's favorite summer topic. So go ahead, Mr. Sanchez, hit us.
So, thank you.
Look at that. Everybody. Guys, come on, stay. You want to hear this? Don't all you guys want to hear about this?
So,
Ross gets left behind. John, go ahead.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to take the opportunity to give an update to the board in the condition of the drought, particularly here for us in Burlington. And I mean, this is no secret that the state has declared a level 3 critical drought for our region. I mean, all you have to do is look out the window and you know what it means. Our current water restrictions in place are finally working for us, although I believe that we need to tweak a couple of items, particularly going into the fall. If you've seen the reservoir recently or pictures of it, you'll see why we need to do that. We are struggling to maintain the demand that we have, but thankfully with the operators we have, and now with Paul as well that just joined the department, we'll be able to weather the storm all the way through the fall, hopefully. So the changes that I'm proposing this time around are that the outdoor water restrictions will be absolute no watering of lawns by any means. There's been questions on whether or not if you water your lawn by hand, it is allowed, but so my recommendation is that there will be absolutely no watering of lawns. Having said that, the watering of plants or in your vegetable gardens, etc., will be exempt from that. You can continue to do that as it's always been allowed by DEP as well. We have September, which you normally allow for watering of new lawns. And what we are asking is that residents and as well as businesses do not tear the lawns and decide to have a new lawn this fall. So if we are going to allow any exceptions, it's just going to be only for new construction or for any additions that you might have constructed during this construction season. The way the drought is acting on us right now, I don't think it's prudent to allow anybody to tear the lawns out and start over again this fall. Please wait until spring to do that. I think 2023 will be a better year when it comes to our water supply. And lastly, in addition to the current penalties, we wanted to put one last item there for new construction. We have had some issues with some of the builders who, some of them have illegally turned water systems on, and even after repeated warnings from us to not water the lawns, they have insisted on doing that. And this is just ratified that the board authorizes the shutting off of water to those properties. Because you shouldn't be planting grass in June or July during a drought. And so those are the major changes that I'm proposing for this, and I'm open to any questions that you may have right now.
Okay, let's open it for questions, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, I know at the top of the meeting, Mrs. O'Brien, during the public comment period, had mentioned that have we considered some even stronger deterrents to stop people from disobeying the water ban. I know some people are content just paying the $50 and continue to water. Should we be thinking about other ways other than, I mean, we try to educate them to death we've all been on Facebook, we've seen hundreds of pictures of the reservoir, we've seen what a terrible drought conditions we have up there. 60 Minutes did an eye-opening piece last night on drought and water and the dangers of what can happen when you run out. So I guess my question is, what's the next step if we're not getting compliance here? Should we be considering some stronger penalties?
So, so there are a couple of things that, you know, again, we're a little late because I talked to a couple of the board members last week about these issues going forward. And, but to change bylaws, it was late to actually submit an article for this coming town meeting. But the select board may want to consider changing those penalties. I mean, the $50 and $100 have been in the books for many, many, many years. So, so that would be something that may deter other people from watering when they're supposed to. In addition to that, I mean, I short of shutting people's waters off, which is an extreme measure. I mean, it's kind of hard. I mean, at this point, whoever says that they don't know there's a drought, and we do hear it. Oh, I didn't know. You know, I mean, it's like, come on. You know, everybody knows what is going on. So. But short of shutting somebody's water off, I just don't see any other measure that we can actually take other than changing the fines.
Joe?
Oh, yeah.
I know. I know.
So I had met Mr. Sanchez earlier this week for an apparent water reduction rate or whatever. But we had talked about certain things. We were going to go talk to town council about what rate we could actually go up on the fines with. So I don't know if that's happened yet or not. I'm just waiting to hear back on that. So it is one thing, we are going to go up on the rates as far as penalty and fines go. John, you had mentioned the fact that we can't water by hand anymore. I know in the first time it happened, you could actually wash your car, but where you can't do anything with that hose except for water your garden and your flowers, right?
That is correct.
No more washing cars.
That is correct.
I hear a lot of people, I was washing my car. Yeah, was your car sit on your front lawn when you were doing it? So, like, come on, stop. I don't think people understand the severity of the water drought we're having. Yes, we've had no rain, but like I try to explain to people, it's the water pressure that we're concerned with. If somebody's house gets on fire, there may not be enough pressure we'll put out the fire. I'm not saying we're not going to put out the fire, but there may not be enough pressure there to put it out in sufficient time that we could on a normal basis. One of the other things that you had mentioned was how we're going to go about educating people more on the water ban itself. So that's something we have to look at and figure out. I know we're on Facebook. I know we're on the town website. I know there's signs up all over town. Do we need more signs? I don't think the people in this town realize how urgent it is to have this water that we need. If you drive by 99% of the yards in town, everybody's brown, and all of a sudden you get a green grass, and I know he doesn't have special grass, and I know that something's going on at nighttime. So residents, this is more for you, please stop watering. I mean, my yard couldn't be any browner.
It'll grow back.
So it's just grass, it will come back. And if there's anything you need from my end of it, don't hesitate to reach out to me and we'll go over whatever we need to go over.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got a question, and it might not be, you might not be able to answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. This drought is not a Burlington problem. It's not a Boston problem. It's not a Massachusetts problem. This is a nationwide, this is a global problem. I think I heard that out of the lower 48 states, over 125 million people right now are affected by this drought. So my question is, have you heard any like meteorological forecasts of anything? Like, is there help on the way? Is it going to be a wet fall or wet spring? Have we heard any forecasts of how long we may be in this type of danger through maybe your industry contacts or anything? Or, and I know it's a tough question, kind of a vague one, but I mean, what are we looking at for what? How long are we in the deep here?
So I wish I could give you an answer. I did participate on the drought meeting, emergency meeting that happened last week with the state, and the Secretary of Environmental Affairs actually held a meeting. FEMA was present, and a bunch of other agencies. And that was one of the questions that people wanted answered, and unfortunately nobody could predict what will happen. The only thing that that has been the common topic of conversation over the years now, this is not the first year that I hear this, is that the type of rain events that we get now, because of climate change, are different than the ones we used to get even as recent as 15 years ago. We used to get the longer, mild rainstorms, the soaking rainstorms that used to help with grass and et cetera, versus now we may get a large amount of water over a 15-minute period, which does not help the aquifers. That becomes immediately runoff, creates a little damage, but actually do not help with the drought. And we, in fact, had a couple of those over the last couple of weeks, those severe rainstorms with wind, et cetera. And Russ is here sitting down. He knows that we can't turn the pumps on because the river comes up and immediately goes back down. So those do not help us. And unfortunately, that's what we hear that it's going to be the new trend into the future.
I know you told me we couldn't pull from the Merrimack until it was above a certain level for a certain amount of days. How low is that river right now compared to where it's supposed to be?
So it is the Shoshin River, and we are so low that the pumps wouldn't come on by themselves. Like if we tried to turn them on because we have safety on them, and they just wouldn't come on. This is as low as it is. And if you happen to see the river, which I see almost daily, it looks like a puddle of water right now. It's not even, the water's not even moving. So,
thank you, John, for your answers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sanchez, we're able to identify violators by reading or having the ability to read the electric meter, wireless meters. Are we able to also, I assume, identify those that are on 100% compliance as well?
sorry, the question is, can we make sure that we have 100% compliance?
No, are we able to identify, residents and businesses that are complying with the ban 100%?
Oh, yes.
So that leads to my second question is, so I'm definitely in favor of increasing the fines because they're long overdue. I don't know if any other town, so one, again, increase the fines for those who don't comply. I don't know if there's any other town or any other area that gives incentives to those that comply 100%. In other words, I don't even know what it could be. And if there are other towns that water authorities do this, maybe that's something to look into to get more people to comply. Is all right, I'm going to comply 100% and I get X, Y, and Z. Or this, whatever it may be. I'm not sure if that even exists. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
Outside of Massachusetts, I have heard about, water systems much larger than ours that actually provide incentives for people to stop using water altogether. And by provide incentives, sometimes is to do more native plantings, maybe rip out regular grass and have a different type of planting that does not require as much. And in those communities, the water company will pay for part of that project as an incentive, because at the end it results in them using less water.
Okay, I'm not sure if that's the route we should go in, but I'm just saying maybe we could look into some sort of incentivization system where people who do comply 100% all the time, maybe there may be some benefits for that. Is that possible? We can at least look into it.
Absolutely.
Okay, then one more final thing. Starting tomorrow, I'll be selling green spray paint. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Joe, you had another question?
I did.
Okay.
I don't know if it's for you or for you or for him. I really don't know where I'm going with this. Can we discuss the fines tonight, or is it something that has to be put on the agenda for the next meeting that we have to go over? Or do we have to go to town meeting for it?
I mean, you can clearly talk about them, that we can't vote on them. It's not listed on the agenda like that. But clearly you can provide us with direction in terms of if you'd like to see something at the next meeting or...
So, I didn't mean to interrupt you, sorry. So gentlemen, while we're sitting here, we're talking about it, does anybody have any ideas on what they'd like to do? So the next meeting, we can have a discussion more on what the fine should be between warnings, $50 and $100. I know what I'd like to do, but I mean, I can tell you right now, Mr. Tigas. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. No, but yeah, go for it.
No, I I agree with you 100%. I just don't think this is a proper venue for that. But I'd be more than willing to sit on a subcommittee or I know you and I sat when we talked about the electric vehicles and stuff. I'd be more willing to set up for, look at the system, maybe do a tiered system as far as, a first step, second step, third step drought or whatever. So I think that's a much bigger discussion than just tonight.
I'm just going on what I've heard so far,
Sure.
And I'm going on the fact that, that I've been actually told by some residents that are watering, and I said, you gotta get a fine. And he said, I water 3 times a week, it's $300. By the time the summer rolls over, I spent $1,500, it's cheaper than putting in the grass. I'm like, really? And then you have to shut your mouth. Paul, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, why don't, if I could suggest to the board, why don't you allow us to do a little research, just to sort of see where we stand in terms of fines in comparison to our neighboring communities and other communities, see if there are any unique ways of fining, tiered fines, based upon usage, and let's see what's out there, and we'll bring something back to the board at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Again, it's probably not gonna help us immediately, and, by the time we get, implement the fines, hopefully the drought will be over, but, again, for the future.
If this problem isn't going away, Paul, then this is just us proactively preparing for next year. Yeah, let us know what you find. Let us know what town council says in terms of, what's I guess, reasonable limit around, fines like this. Jim's notion of the carrot versus the stick, I don't know how many folks would subscribe to it, but positively incentivizing folks versus negatively whacking them is interesting. Two other things. So, John, you said that new construction and people who are doing additions are exempted and can water and put in new grass?
So what I'm saying is that those two will have the ability to ask for a waiver.
To ask for a waiver?
To ask for a waiver.
Okay.
Yes. So it's not automatic. They still have to follow the process as traditionally we've been doing this over the last couple of years. But in past, it will be anybody could apply for the waiver.
Sure.
And this time it's saying that for the board to actually only allow new construction or new additions to be able to apply for the waiver during this fall.
Okay. In your opinion, given the state that things are in, is it worth even allowing that offer of exemption? Like, shouldn't we just say, hey, no one should be watering, you shouldn't be putting in new grass and watering? Like, shouldn't we just say no?
So this is it's a conundrum, okay? Because when you think about new construction and the land that is not seeded and there is no vegetation on it, that also creates another problem environmentally. So at one point you have to weigh the two of them, and which will be the bigger problem. Like if you have a lawn, if you have new construction and you leave it as gravel, because we're not going to allow it to plant grass, I think a lot of it is going to end up in our catch basins and streams and things like that once that winter comes in and spring comes in. So I think because it's not the large majority that I would do, and that will be a small minority, I think is something that is actually beneficial to the environment to allow those. And those will be, again, restricted to 4 hours a day. I didn't say that, but that was one of the restrictions, and only in those events. And we do monitor them to make sure that that's the way they're doing it. What hurt us is the large majority of regularly ongoing irrigation systems that we have in town. That wouldn't really be as much of a problem.
Okay. All right. And then, Paul, I know that we talked, or you had a conversation with Brendan about the town's use of water in the fields, and that he was going to cut that back even further. But there was some concern. Remind me, the safety of use of dry grass.
Right, John could probably explain it better, but there is an exemption for the safety and watering public spaces and public fields. As the fields dry out, they become slippery, and there's a concern about being able to have the ability to hold programs, and high school sports will be starting up in a couple of weeks. So Brendan is watering minimally. They cut back substantially in terms of what they've been doing, so they've really been working hard, the recreation with us. Just trying to keep those fields afloat that we really, otherwise they may have to close fields. Again, we have school sports coming up in a couple of weeks with back to school. And again, with all the members of the community that utilize the fields, we'd really be, causing an additional burden on the community by having to shut down fields. Sure. So that's the thought process behind that.
Okay.
If I may add to that, Mr. Chairman, part of it too is that because I do hear the town is watering, the town does own a lot of irrigation systems, not just fields. All the other irrigation systems are off. So I know like cemeteries, we do typically water those. We haven't watered the entire year. There's islands, there's other places around town that there's no watering going on whatsoever. And even all the fields, he's keeping only a handful of fields watered, not even all of them. So.
All right, so then we will look to hear back on what you folks learn about other costs and what town council says around how high we can go legally and responsibly. And then we can bring it back for discussion, because I know that that's, at least in talking with you, because we were talking to John about this, that, I mean, you know, the unfortunate state that we're in, and, you know, this is for everybody, is that, and like Joe said, if somebody is gonna pay $3,000 for new grass, or to replace new grass, or they're gonna, you know, be nominally fined by the town, they'd rather pay the nominal fine to the town. So we need folks to curb the way that they are currently doing things, because asking politely has not been as effective as we would have hoped. So, thank you, John. That's it though, right? We're done with it?
No, there was a vote to change the actual water ban to tweak it. So I would recommend that the select board votes to approve any or all the recommended changes that I proposed.
So, gentlemen, specifically to the changes that are being proposed, specifically, any discussion around this? Any issues?
Just very quickly, just to go over real quick. So basically, it gets no more handheld watering at all, unless it's a garden or flowers.
Correct.
No car washing, no power washing your house, no watering your grass. But you can take a shower.
Yes.
Inside.
Inside.
Don't take a long shower out in your backyard.
That screws up everything, man. Okay.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Jim?
Aye.
Mr. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Spejo?
Aye.
Mr. Morandi?
Yes.
Chair votes aye. 5-0-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Am I next to still?
All right. Excuse me. Moving on. 589, update Mass Highway on Route 3A. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. While John's here, long and the short of it is, we're in line for resurfacing on 3A through Mass Highway. As everybody knows, the state owns that road, and this is a long-awaited. I'm sure you guys receive as many complaints as we do about the condition of that road at this point. And they will be coming before us with their plan in October, John. And John, I don't know if you want to give sort of a sneak peek about what they're looking at in terms of their design of the road.
Sure. Thank you. If I may, Mr. Chair. So Mass DOT is going to be repaving Campus Street, which is actually Road 3A, from the Shoshone River in Billerica all the way to the high school here in Burlington. And as part of the project, which the project does not include any widening, the project includes some minor modifications to sidewalks and some handicap accessibility issues when it comes to crosswalks that they will tend to. But the biggest change that they're proposing is to create a two-lane road. Right now, Campbell Street is not wide enough to have 4 lanes, although that's how most typically is driven. But it's really not wide enough for legally doing that. So the goal is to narrow that down to 2 lanes, 1 in each direction, with bicycle lanes on either side, except for when you get to a signalized intersection. So if you have one where you have traffic lights during those intersections, the road will look the same way that it looks today. So it'll probably be like 4 lanes, as all of them are, whether it is the one in Francis Wyman Road, Wilmington Road, here in the center. But the rest of the road will be a 1 lane going in each direction. That's the way they want to stripe it. Like I said, they will add some new signs for bicycling, some new crosswalks, and things of the nature. But the biggest part is that reduction from what is known to be like a 4-lane to actually a 2-lane road.
Mr. Chairman, I have some engineering plans that I can forward to the board members tomorrow. If you have any better luck reading them than I do, then pretty smart guy, son, I'll say that, because it's difficult to read for a layman, but hopefully it'll give you a sense of what they're looking at doing on that whole stretch of road.
Okay. So the biggest change then would be that we'd be seeing a lot more merge points coming in and out of intersections, correct?
So that is correct, because right now, even after going through an intersection, a lot of people tend to still drive it as a two-line in each direction. So yeah, it will be a lot of merging. You'll probably also see, typically what you see when this geometric changes like this, you see a reduction in the amount of vehicles that actually travel on those roads, because the road now is not able to handle as much traffic as before. So commuters will tend to find another place to commute to and from home. But yeah, you're correct.
Okay. Gentlemen, any questions? Mike?
Oh, yeah.
I know.
We don't have enough time tonight to answer all the
Like
questions.
30 minutes on this, please?
Let me just ask this one question. Is this a directive from them? This is what they're going to do, or we have an opportunity to tell them it's not working? And I'm only basing my concern on, I want to go back 8 or 9 years. I think we had DOT engineers here who predicted such a move would create an enormous gridlock in Burlington here if we were to choose to do such a thing. Has the philosophy changed?
So there has been a lot of changes, if I may, over the years, and again, this is their road. Mass DOT does own that road; they operate that road. But there's been a lot of changes that had happened since the widening of Route 3, which, and I don't know because this goes back even to the time when Route 3 was still in a project, and the Ada Lane project. So that has created more capacity on that road than previously had here going through the secondary roads in town. But at the same time, there's a big change when it comes to mobility, when it comes to different types of transportation modes within the state. Bicycling is one that takes priority, as well as walking. So they are emphasizing both some sidewalk work as well as bicycling on those lanes to allow people to safely or safer go through roads as busy as Cambridge Street is. It's been in the books for quite some years right now. They call it complete streets because it's not just for cars, it's for all the modes of transportation. And I think we're going to see more and more in the future about that as we evolve from a car society to maybe other types of transportation as well.
Okay. You think drought is getting a lot of attention and feedback. This should be equally interesting to the community, I'm sure. So, okay, I'm just glad to know that we'll have an opportunity to at least have some discussion about this before it's implemented.
Yes, that was our thought of bringing Mass Highway here before the board. Hopefully they'll have some sketches and designs that are better visually than the engineering plans for us laymen to look at. The only other positive I'll add, and I do understand that there is a fear of having less lanes backing up traffic, but this certainly syncs with what we're trying to do in the town center in terms of slow the cars down in that area, make it a little bit more pedestrian friendly, and hopefully as we work towards making improvements to that area over time. But I do share your concerns about having less ability for the cars to move through and what happens in that situation.
And if I may, the designers, when they come here to show the plans, we'll probably talk a little bit about this, but there's been also big changes happening in transportation engineering, which in the past, it was all about capacity. We're going to create more capacity. We're going to make more intersections. We're going to move more lanes. And then what they have found out is what they call, if they build it, they will come. So you start building capacity. So that means that you bring more cars, because now you create more capacity. So if you notice throughout the United States, it's actually going the other way as far as reducing and necking down those roads to make it more, to make it safer, reduce speeds, etc. So that's the trending that we see happening over the last 10 years anyways.
Sure. It'll be an interesting discussion.
Yeah, for sure. Jim, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can't, obviously, none of us can actually predict the future, but I can tell you that based on my past experience, back when I was in the traffic division or at the police department, There was a fatal accident in Billerica on 3A by the 99. The state came in and made that one lane, except for the intersections, and the traffic backed up on 3A from Billerica all the way up to beyond Francis Wyman Road in Burlington. So what happened was, and Nick and Mike, you'll appreciate, Mike Espelio, you'll appreciate this. What happened was the traffic started going down Wilmington Road over to Prouty and come out Cook Street because it was faster for them. That's what caused those two stop signs to be put in the middle of Prouty Road. So it diverted the traffic. I saw that happen. I used to do the traffic counts. I know it happened. The other thing, especially with the new GPS apps like Waze and all the Google Streets and all that stuff, what happens is when the traffic backs up, the GPS is going to tell them to take an alternate route. Well, what's on the sides of 3A? Neighborhoods. Unfortunately, I'm going to speculate that if this happens and the traffic backs up, you're going to see cars cutting through the neighborhoods. I know Skilton Lane will probably become a huge mess, but based on my past experience, I just think that we should definitely have a say with this because the state will take care of 3A, but that doesn't mean they're taking care of the neighborhoods. That's all I wanted to say on that.
Thanks, Jim. Mike?
What year was that when it happened?
I don't know the year specifically, but I know Prouty Road used to be just a straight shot, and then that fatal crash in Billerica happened. They made it one lane, and people just said, "Oh, let me find the shortest way," and that's what they did.
I live between the infamous Prouty Road stop sign, so I know that all too well. I learned a little bit about my house tonight. Thank you, Mr. Diggins.
One of the greatest questions in Burlington lore is Cambridge Street 2 lanes or 4? This may actually solve that question, but again, there's a lot of questions that have to be answered before that. My question is the traffic impact. Will there be a traffic study done on this type of change at the specific merge points? Or was someone going to look into that all before we start, taking away lanes? And again, in theory, this is an awesome idea to slow that traffic down, to get some bike lanes on Cambridge Street, and to get some delineation, and to end that Burlington legend on what is Cambridge Street 2 or 4 lanes. We could actually tell people, look at the lanes. But will there be a traffic study or someone look at that before we start doing stuff like this?
So this project has been designed by traffic engineers. So, and again, this is not a town design project, it's a state, and the state hired a consultant who designed this. I will tell you though, there's all these intersections that, because you're talking about the merging points particularly, all of them were designed to merge. And if you look at them, they're signed as a merge. Every one of those intersections is. So the fact is, when they designed it originally, they were designed to merge into one lane. And again, the signage is still there that says that's the way it should be driven. That's not the way we'll do it, but that's the way that it's signed.
And the Prouty Road, Wilmington Road, Cook Street, and Billerica impact will be taken a look at, I hope?
Yeah, and I guess there will be questions that that we can ask the designers when they come in to present the project.
We'll have two very interested people to talk about that on that night. Thank you, sure. John, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Jim, for the little history lesson. I may call you later and ask you more about that.
Joe, any questions?
No, he's been here long enough.
After being devoted to Director Sanchez over here. No, John, always, it's a pleasure having you here. We
Well, thank you very much. Sorry it took a
John.
little bit of time, but thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye, Mr. Sanchez.
All right, next up, 590, Council on Aging Committee Member Appointment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Marge McDonald has informed us that Ellie Hutchinson, a longtime member of the COA board, is no longer living in town, is going to have to give up her seat. So congratulations to Ellie, a very nice lady. Sorry to see her move out of town. And Marge has requested that the board appoint Rose Magliozzi she's currently an alternate on the committee to being a full-time member. And I guess Rose, if anybody knows Rose, she does everything up at the COA. And apparently they've already made her chair, even though she's not an official member of the committee yet. So congratulations to Rose. And with Marge's recommendation, I'd like to appoint Rose Magliozzi to the Council on Aging Board and ask that the board waive its 15-day waiting period.
So moved.
Okay, motion's been moved and seconded. Mr. Tigas?
Aye.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Spejo.
Aye.
Mr. Morandi.
Yes.
Chair votes aye, 500. That was 590, not 589. Sorry about that. 591, update sealer of weights and measures proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have Joanne Faust, the town's Human Resources Director, is in the virtual chat room. I'll give a little bit of a background for the board, and then she can take it from there, and she's worked very hard on this. As the board is aware, back in March, I believe, the state, let's just say very suddenly, decided that they were no longer going to perform sealer of weights and measures services for the community. Under the state laws, they're only required to do it for communities less than 10,000 in population. However, many years ago when I first started for the town did have its own sealer. At that time, the town was having trouble keeping up with the technology and the workload, and the state came in and actually actively recruited communities. They had capacity to do these services, and they wanted communities to do the services through them, so the town transitioned to the state, which is even more reason why we're disappointed to be so suddenly booted from the program, along with many other communities in the state. As you might imagine, a sealer of weights and measures is not an average everyday job that we have many people out there qualified to do. So what we did look to do was we communicated with many other communities just to sort of understand how they were going to handle the tradition and transition. And Joanne is here to talk about her efforts to work with the town of Lexington in posting a position that will hopefully attract a very good candidate to handle our sealer of weights and measures services. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Joanne Faust, our Human Resources Director.
Hello, everyone. So yes, the town of Burlington, as Paul mentioned, did have the contract with the state for the sealer of weights and measures. And in talking with my colleague in Lexington, found that they were removed from the state contract as well. And this is a very difficult position to fill for many reasons. It's a part-time position. And the job market over the last couple of years has been very, very different. Part-time positions are very hard to fill. And this position is, it's a difficult position, not only because we need someone who is certified, but we need someone who can work in a hands-off type of a manner. This position works when our businesses are open. You know, they enter the businesses at any time when they're open and check their equipment, make sure that the scales are functioning. They can do this job anytime, nights, weekends, and it's all off-site. So we need someone who's a self-starter, who is trustworthy, as well as certified to do the work. And part-time openings are very, very hard to fill. We anticipate that we'll have about 10 hours of work that we can offer for this position in a week. And I just see us having a very hard time finding someone. So we figured we might have some strength in numbers. I talked with my colleagues over in Lexington, and they are also looking for a sealer, and they have probably about half of the devices that we have in Burlington. So combined, we think that we might have 18 hours of work. That might be a little ambitious, but I think that would be a little bit more attractive to finding better quality candidates who would be interested and available to do the work and a high quality of work. So we have been talking for the last several months over the summer and are looking at putting together a shared services agreement where one of the towns would be the main employer. We're looking at Burlington being that town because we do have more of the work. And the employee, the sealer, would do the work for both Burlington and Lexington. You know, neighboring communities, they really can kind of bounce back and forth very, very easily. It would be very efficient to do the work between these two adjoining communities. And, you know, we would bill the town of Lexington probably on a quarterly basis for all of the employment related costs. So that would be salary, any mileage, vehicle reimbursements, or if there's a vehicle allowance, we still need to discuss how that's going to look. But those related costs, there'll be no benefit costs for this position. It's most likely going to easily be under 20 hours. We think it's no more than 18. So we do think that having strength in numbers would be to all of our benefits to hire the best person and the right person for this position.
Awesome. Thank you, Joanne. All right, turning to questions, gentlemen. Joe, you want to start? Yeah, you.
Oh, I am Joe.
You're the one Joe here.
No, I have no questions. Seems like a great part-time job that I'd be interested in.
All right,
Just saying.
Mr. Espejo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Joanne. I love the idea of the collaboration with a neighboring town to kind of both kind of make the position. That's a great idea. Just a quick question on the devices the sealer and weights of measures uses. Is it just gas pumps? Is there anything else?
I can comment on that, Joanne. Gas pumps, scales. I believe in stores get done every other year. So that you think about how many checkout scanners there are in town, but also scales, cab meters for any taxi or livery services, and you'd be surprised, but those are the primary categories aside from the gas pumps, is the scales and the scanners.
Seems like it'll be a lot of hours.
Yeah, believe it or not, it's something that can be done pretty quickly. I think that it's a position that needs to work very independently. Previously with our contract with the state, we didn't care when they did them, what time, if they did them all in one day or they did them one a day for the entire year, as long as they all got done. And I think that we're looking at this position very similarly, where we're trying to figure out what the cost per year is. Unfortunately, we're prohibited from having like a contractor or a company handle the service, which is why we've, you know, instead of going it alone and trying to advertise a 10-hour position, we worked with Lexington. But we continually find new areas where there are devices. You know, every once in a while, a couple years ago, for example, we became aware that almost every jewelry store had a scale in it that needed to be, you know, checked. Police officers had informed us of that, and pawn shops. There's quite a bit of devices out there.
They do
automobile
elevators?
scales. There's quite a few, and given the economic activity in town, we do have a substantial amount of devices that need to be done. So we're confident it's going to cost us a little bit more than what we were paying the state, which is obviously why they probably got rid of it. It wasn't a great deal for them. But we're still pretty confident that we're going to come in a very reasonable range of a part-time position in combination with Lexington.
You don't do elevators, do they?
No, not elevators.
That's all I had. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joanne, would this fall under DPW?
No, it would not.
Jim, we sort of talked about that as to where sort of the position should fall. In some communities that have, we looked at that option as possibly providing training and stipends for existing employees, but that didn't really work. In some communities, it falls under code enforcement or the building department, this type of work, or public works. But for present, while we're working through the kinks, we thought it was best to have it report to the administration for now, and maybe at some point in the future, we could assign the position to a different department for oversight.
All right, thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Joe.
Mike?
I guess my only question is, I mean, again, yeah, low hours. I can understand that's a tough, so do we know what the minimum qualifications are? Or something somebody can learn, you know, pretty quickly at a training school or something, or an academy or?
Joanne, do you have any information on that?
You know, I don't know exactly what the certification program looks like, but it is available through the state. I don't know how long it would take, but there are courses and certifications that are available for anyone to obtain.
And any candidate would have, I believe, a year to get their state certification. So
I'm not doing a heck of a lot these days. I mean, I'm just curious that,
Hey, I already called it.
what I would have to do to,
You got a couple applicants, I think.
okay. Okay.
It's not an unusual.
Keep an eye on that. What time, when do we need to make this transition by? Is it this year?
Well, July 1st, technically, we need to service all the devices by next June 30th. So we do believe there's plenty of time to do so. Many other communities are still working through the kinks as well. Again, we were a little bit disappointed in being surprised by the state discontinuing the service on us. So many communities are in the same boat and struggling to find an alternate way to get the services done.
Two questions. The first is, beyond Lexington, were there any other towns nearby that would have also been seeking, like I know Bedford and Wilmington were both booted from the program. Are they striking out on their own? Did we talk to them?
I talked to several communities. I'm sorry, I was just didn't want to speak over Joanne. I know that she's talked to several as well. Communities are trying different ways of doing it. Like in the community that I live in Stoneham, it's $6,000 a year. They have very few scales, so every community and the number of devices is different, and that's what sort of made us a little bit of an outlier in that we're a small community, but we have so much commercial activity that we have a significant amount of devices that. You know, I think it was a little bit easier for some of the smaller towns with less activity to get, you know, one person to do 4 towns. So we thought Lexington being next door would be a very good partner for us.
Yeah, no, definitely. Last question. So, and again, I understand the uniqueness of the state dropping us, so I know that plays a big factor into this. We have until June 30th to have everything all checked and signed off on. We hire a person, let's say in September, right? If that person's not certified and has a year to get certified, how are they then properly doing all the checks by June 30th?
Right, there's a state training program that the person will have to participate in.
Okay,
The
so
state's willing to help us get on our feet in that regard.
okay, so we'd hire the person, they'd get trained, and then we'd let them out into the wild to go measure and scale.
Yes.
Okay, Mike, follow-up question?
One more quick question. With the amount of life science companies that are coming into town, I'm sure they have a bunch of things that need to be measured. Are we factoring our growth and the new devices that will be coming online because of our new company, life science businesses?
No, that's a great question, Mike. These are commercial devices, sort of. This is a public service. So if a person's buying a pound of cold cuts at the supermarket, we want to make sure that the scale's working properly. Those devices which somebody's using in a laboratory or something like that, we wouldn't be involved in that.
Okay.
They're using their own scales for their own purposes.
Thank you.
So this is sort of a consumer protection service.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, of course. Okay, gentlemen, that's just an update, so no votes required. Joanne, thank you for the update. Paul, thank you very much.
Yep, we'll be coming back to you once we finalize the agreement, hopefully with a candidate and with what's called a shared services agreement, which will be spell out the terms between Burlington and Lexington as to how we're going to administer that we'll need the board to vote on in the future.
Okay, great. All right, next up, 592, discussion approval DEI committee. I want to welcome Dr. Barbara Addison-Reed and Dr. Nancy Bonacera. Please join us up here. We got 2 items to look at, the second quarterly report, as well as potential dates for the Select Board DEI Leaders Program. Ladies, I'll turn it to you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. The first item we are going to talk about is the second quarterly report, and we have an up-to-date documents being passed to everyone. So what I'm going to do is first introduce everybody knows who is serving on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee: Nancy Bonacera, Saeed Gahani, Carl Foss, Nick Priest, and me. The process that we use for looking at our goals and results is to first look at philosophy and core values, mission, goals, decisions, actions, results, and self-appraisal. So when we're evaluating what we accomplished, that's the formula that we're using. What we did was to go through what has happened since January, the last time we reported, to see, and I'll just highlight some activities that have taken place. In January, we provided feedback to Amy Warfield, Town Clerk, and Joanne Faust, Director of Human Resources, about the data that we gathered and evaluated the previous 3 months. In February, the data was presented to the Select Board on the 28th. In March, we began to look at to explore the identity of executive leaders in Burlington so that we could communicate with them around mission statements and philosophy for the bodies that they are governing for the town. In April, we looked at the mission statement that was provided by the Select Board, and we updated it, and it was voted on by the Select Board to adopt the change in the language on the 11th of April. In May, we began to draft the program for the Select Board and the DEI leaders about diversity, equity, inclusion. We looked at rules and regulations and union contracts. That information was presented, and we now need to determine what was implemented in the June timeframe. We also identified the town execs, and we began to look at meeting with them. If you go to the top of page 3, we have the list of the executives, such as the Board of Assessors, and the 2 DEI committee members that are working are Nancy and me. And so you see every committee, the DEI is working with every board executive, and we're doing that over June, July, and August. In June, we also looked at the agenda that we want to present to the key execs so that it's not only the mission statement and philosophy, but also to understand that the changes they make in the language should be considered and added to the annual board meeting, the annual report for the town of Burlington. So those are things that have been undertaken this year in the last 6 months. The next item that I want to talk to you about are the dates.
BJ, before we jump ahead, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I just want to take a moment and let the board, if anyone has any questions on what is presented. And before we do that, I just want to acknowledge that something that I found interesting as the DEI committee reaches out to other boards and committees is that other boards and committees are beginning these conversations of their own volition. And we're beginning to find that out. And it was no surprise that the schools were on that train, but Board of Health, Michael Green came to one of our meetings. There are other boards and committees who are beginning to discuss it amongst themselves as well. And I found that very interesting. So I just wanted to call that to this board's attention. Gentlemen, based on just the report, are there any questions? Jim, I don't know if you have the backup. We have a hard copy here. But if there are any questions, just flag me real quick. If not, we can move to part 2 of this.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Seeing I don't have a copy of that what's in front of you, I think I'd have to abstain because I can't vote one way or the other simply because I don't have it, that's all.
Yeah, Jim, this is just an update, so no vote required on this. A copy, I believe, was in the backup. But this is just that they came prepared, and I appreciate that.
The backup I have is something we've received already. I didn't see any changes in that.
Yes, correct. All right.
Yes, we want to prepare an opportunity for the Select Board to work with the DE&I committee and look at the foundation for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we suggested in May that we might establish a date. We'd like to discuss that topic and then have the board make a decision about dates that we might look at to bring the 2 groups together.
Yes. We don't have, that's the one thing we don't have, is backup of the the meeting discussion points that we had talked about at our last meeting. So gentlemen, just for edification, so the goal here is to basically have a working session with the DEI to kind of go over some stuff so they can get real-time conversation with us. So we'd be looking to set up, you know, presumably a 90-minute workshop where we'd sit down and kind of go over some stuff, you know, and try and make some recommendations live in the room. That way, when they come back to us with stuff, it's more in line with our general philosophy and thinking, as opposed to them, you know, working it out on their own and then us, you know, effectively tearing it apart if it's not in line with what we were thinking to begin with. So I think tonight the goal is to say, you know, is there a time frame we'd like to accomplish this in? Knowing that the committee is an ad hoc through November, and perhaps it makes the most sense, and I'm open to discussion, but I'm just thinking out loud, is that perhaps, Lynn, through you, we set up like a doodle and we, you know, poll people for like dates and times so we can get something on the books and have an effective workshop. But before we go that far, I want to open it to discussion. So, gentlemen, any thoughts, questions? I know this is a lot. Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First thing that caught my eye is that just between the three of you, the two doctors here tonight and Mr. Fossey is doing all of these interviews. So I want to say thank you to you for the time you're putting into this. I think what would be helpful to me is the committee minutes mentioned in the report. The committee minutes record the details for these meetings. I think it would be helpful to me ahead of any workshop that I had an opportunity to look them over, so might you know, make me get my little wheels turning and you know, come up with some questions so I could actively, you know, be a participant in a workshop.
Yep.
But the doodle calendar thing sounds like a good idea.
Joe, Mike?
I have nothing.
Okay, Mike?
Hey, Mr. Chairman. I'd also like to thank the committee for their work on this. We just saw that beautiful ceremony out on the common, and it just kind of emphasized to me, seeing all the wonderful people out today celebrating India's 75th anniversary, how important diversity is and how much stronger we are as a community to be diverse and coming together of all races and backgrounds and different places. My question is, for these workshops, how long will they last? What are we talking? I think a doodle thing is a good way to kind of narrow down a good time for everyone. How long are we looking at? What type of time?
Yeah, so I think we were originally targeting 90 minutes. I know that after you and I had spoken, you know, I had presented that draft back to the DEI committee. We haven't had a full chance to discuss that, but you know, I think that it would be a general workup of something along those lines. You know, and I think that it gives an opportunity to, so like, you know, all the workshops that I've been a part of in my career, and I was explaining this to the DEI committee, is when you keep everyone to like hard blocks of time, and you say, okay, we're gonna work on this for 15 minutes, we'll work on this for 20 minutes, it elicits a faster response, as opposed to not dragging your feet, but you know, providing too much air for nothing to happen, essentially. So I hate to be in a room for 5 hours and nothing to come out of it, right? If we feel at the end of the 90 minutes that the more needs to happen, we can talk through that. But I think as a first step, it would be a good start.
It also keeps people focused too, if you have a set schedule and determined blocks and you know what's going to be discussed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, no other questions. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Jim, you out there? I see your camera's off. You may have run to the restroom. All right, we'll give him a second. All right, so it seems like we're on board to set up a doodle so we can. Oh, jeez. No worries, Jim.
It's Jim.
Any questions, thoughts, comments?
I got it this time.
Okay. So then it seems like next best step is to set up a doodle for all of us to find a good time frame to do this. While we do that, we'll take the proposed agenda, maybe put some more hard time around it. BJ, if you could help me with that, that'd be greatly appreciated. And we can work towards setting up that meeting. Okay? Anything else? Anything further from you, from either of you? I want to make sure that we have.
The only other thought that I have is that we wanted to extend the opportunity to Paul to join us as we look at the time frame as well. And we're predicting that one of the things we want to do is work with Joanne, and since Joanne works directly for you, let's engage that.
Yeah, absolutely, we will participate in that discussion.
Thank you.
Awesome. Nancy?
Oh, I just want to say thank you to all of you for moving forward with this. I think it's really important to just get to know each other better and have a conversation. I think, we'll find we all have a lot in common. We all have similar goals, so looking forward to it. Thanks.
Absolutely. All right, if there's nothing else, then you both are free to go. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving right along, 593, use of town common, IAB. As soon as they sit down, just yell yes.
So moved.
I thought we already did that.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and other board members.
Good to see you both again, the second time.
Long time no see.
Long time no see. Yes, I'm Indra Deb. I'm the treasurer of IAB, and I have Sheetal Bhamar, who is the president. And we also have our secretary.
President to be from next year.
Yeah,
Oh.
President-elect.
President-elect.
Deepa Agarwal. So we are here, as you know, that we would be celebrating our Diwali on September 25th, and I would ask Sheetal to say.
Sure. So we're requesting use of town common on September 25th to celebrate our IAB Diwali like we do every year. The program will be from 3 to 7 p.m., but we request setup time around 10, 11 o'clock as we start decorating the gazebo, make a photo booth, and vendors, everybody, they come to set up around 12, 1 o'clock. We do have a theme like every year. This year's theme is Samaya, which means equal consideration towards all human beings. It's a Sanskrit word, and so we feel like this will be a good platform to welcome everyone. Doesn't matter, just we spoke about diversity, like DEI. Everyone is welcome. You don't have to be an Indian to come participate in the event or enjoy the event. We did meet with Brendan at the rec department to get him up to speed as to what our requirements are and ask his, support in doing the same. We already have on the agenda to meet the police chief because we do require his assistance as well. We'll have food vendors as usual. So we'll go and meet with the Board of Health folks and ask the food vendors to give application for selling food at the event. And then usually the BOH inspectors are on site to inspect, which is very good, and I'm thankful for that. We will have some small businesses and other vendor tables, so it's a good community outreach for home-based businesses, like the henna lady, she does it at home. So it's a good way for them to get exposed to the community. And we are also planning to have kids entrepreneurs like last year and nonprofits represented as well, teaching kids, how to do a business or how to sell their product, staying true to our education, charity, civic mission.
Yes. I honestly, truly, go ahead, Andrew, you want to say something?
Just one more thing to add is our rain day is the next Sunday, which is October 2nd.
Next Sunday, yeah.
October 2nd.
Okay.
Just to mention.
I just want to say, I love the 4 pillars that for your mission. Like it's truly wonderful, and we all love going to Diwali. Truly.
Please do so.
It's Samaya. Is that the theme?
Samaya.
Samaya.
Yep.
That's wonderful. I mean, truly. This year. Gentlemen, I open it to the board for any questions. Obviously, we've approved this 4, 5 years now. 5.
4 years in a row, yeah.
Yeah.
Except for COVID.
Right. Yeah. COVID pending. But Questions, comments? Joe, we'll start with you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
First of all, let me thank you for the, earlier tonight. It was wonderful to have your 75th anniversary, as Mike said, Diamond?
Diamond Jubilee.
Diamond Jubilee. So thank you so much for inviting us to that. And secondly, I can't wait. So I like the festival. I think
Get
it's
your
great.
dancing shoes on.
Yeah, you, get your dancing shoes on.
Me? I can't even walk and chew gum. Maybe a little disco, I don't know.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I want to echo my colleague Joe's comments. That was a beautiful ceremony tonight. And I said in my remarks my feelings about Diwali and where it ranks for me on the events of the Common. It's my favorite, and it's a wonderful day. And I know our meeting's running long. We're so happy. Can't wait. I love it. I just love you that you do it. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mike, anything?
I have no questions. I'm fine with that.
Jim, anything?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, again, I'm just gonna echo what, Mr. Spejo said. It's an unbelievable event, and what Joe said as well. It's a great day. It's just hours of fun, but I do have one quick question. Is probably Mr. Sagarino. There is a porta potty on the Common now. When does that leave? And if it's not there, what are the arrangements that IAB are making for that?
I don't recall exactly. I think it was through September. If not, Jim, we will ask our rec department to extend that for at least one more month so that we'll have it there for September as well. I know that's a busy month on the Common anyway, so.
I believe Brendan did mention it's through the September.
Okay.
Porta potty. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Sagarino. Adrian Chital, is that enough, or do you think you're gonna need more? That's a big crowd and only one porta potty.
So typically we have requested the town hall to be open for seniors that have hard time, and we do get a lot of seniors because little kids perform, so their grandparents come and watch them. So it would be great if we could have the town hall restrooms available for those people that are, not comfortable going in porta potties.
We used last time also, so we are going to do the same process this time.
We'll be happy to look into that, whether it's having the building open or having additional porta potties brought in. We can check what the most appropriate way to handle that is.
Sure.
Thank you both.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, if there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
You can make a motion to approve the use of the town common on September 25th, the rain date of October 2nd for IAB Diwali.
Second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Mr. Tigas?
Aye.
Mr. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Moretti?
Aye.
Mr. Spejo?
Yes.
Chair votes aye.
There you go.
5-0-0. Looking
Thank
forward
you.
to it.
We look
Thank
forward
you
to
very
it. Thank
much.
you.
You all are invited, please.
Yes.
This year come.
Yes, please. And little caveat, so the day after.
I don't think Lynn's ever danced in this, so maybe it's her turn.
Yeah.
Yes,
Come on, Lynn.
absolutely. We can even
do you
give
think,
you an
Lynn?
outfit.
I have no rhythm and I did it.
So we have so India has a dancing festival, a 10-day dancing festival that actually starts the day after our event. So we're going to have a mega dancing going on. This is at much bigger level than you've seen before, and the whole audience is going to participate. So please do stay till the end. You'll enjoy
What
it.
time is that?
It'll be around. So this time we're planning to end the
They're
program
saying that
a
so you
little
can
bit-
leave.
Oh,
Don't tell them.
sorry. I'm working on it. Thank you for the heads up.
Happy Independence Day. This is such a happy, glorious day. 75 years to the day.
Thanks for the help, Mike.
Congrats. Happy Independence.
Thank you for your
Thank
support.
you. And I'm proud to be part of this town resident. I'm so proud of Burlington.
We're proud to have you.
I'll tell you real quick, I know we gotta move on to our next agenda item, but when you were singing your national anthem, I saw two young girls, actually three young girls, singing like right off to the side of me. I was so impressed. They knew every single word. They were very young, and I don't think you could hear them at all, but this crowd was so good size, which usually wasn't that big last year. And those two girls were very, very impressive.
Beautiful.
Really, they were beautiful. That's exactly what it was. They were beautiful, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the
Good
day.
night.
All right, 594, approval use of the Sculpture Park Ice Cream Social. I know Barbara was unable to be here. She had messaged Jim and I earlier letting us know that she had a personal matter to attend to this evening.
I can take it.
Yeah, Jim, I was going to turn to you if you wouldn't mind filling us in on what's going on here.
Okay, so what it is, it's gonna do an ice cream social on Saturday, August 20th. I'm sorry, August 20th, which is next Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. We want to thank Wegmans because they've donated ice cream. We're going to provide ice cream to those who attend. The Sculpture Park is going to pay to have a balloon artist there available for whoever wants a balloon creature or creation. We really don't know what the attendance is going to be. Again, it's just before school, and I highly doubt it's going to rain. So I'm not counting on rain. But we do have a rain date of the 21st, just in case. Police department's been notified, the rec department's been notified, and the Sculpture Park committee will be responsible for the cleanup after. So I'd be looking for a motion to, actually, I'm gonna abstain from this because I'm on the committee, but the request is to approve the use of the Sculpture Park from August 20th, on August 20th from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, with a rain date of August 21st, with all the same particulars.
Okay. Jim, if I recall correctly, in Barbara's email, she mentioned the red trousers again, bringing them down. Is that still something that's going to happen?
No, but that was, we're trying to anticipate a crowd.
Okay.
And the crowd was, for the Red Trouser event, was 250 people. So that was a guesstimate on the crowd based on the Red Trouser event.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right.
All right.
Gentlemen, questions?
I would like to reserve a comment after we vote on the use of the common. I'm absolutely totally in favor of this. So
Okay.
I have nothing to add, but I do like a minute after we're done.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And that's fair. In fact, it's even worth mentioning at this point that when we get the feedback from town council around the use of the town common, we should look to fold the Sculpture Park into that in terms of use. So that way it's 100% clear moving forward how we want the space to be utilized.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, when you get a chance.
Yeah, Joe, let me just run through everybody and then I'll come back to you. Joe,
anything on this? No. Okay, Mike, anything on this?
My question would be for Paul. Paul, seeing I'm the liaison to the Sculpture Park Committee from the Select Board, do you think this is something I should abstain from, or I can vote on this just because I'm the liaison?
Jim, I think it would be fine to vote on it. You don't have any personal financial interest in the ice cream social, so it would be fine.
Okay.
Does enjoying ice cream define as a personal stake?
He's got a personal stake in the flavors being served, I've heard, through the grapevine, but other than that.
Mike, did you want to bring up your thing now before we vote?
After.
Okay.
After.
All right, so then if there's no other further discussion, questions, or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll let my Friday request stand as the motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Do I hear a
Do I
second?
hear a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Do a roll call vote. Mr. Tigas?
Aye.
Mr. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Spaho?
Yes.
Mr. Morandi?
Aye.
And chair votes aye, 5-0-0 to approve the ice cream social through the Sculpture Park Committee. As a part of that, Mike, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just briefly, and it's just a little bit of a nagging issue with me on certain things. So we had that little meeting here with the Sculpture Park and the historical the other night, and it went very well, by the way. But Mr. Sachs made a comment I thought was I kind of chuckled at the time, but he said it's easier to apologize than ask for permission, which leads me to my comments, because we've talked to them before about this. Their ice cream social is being advertised over at the corner of Cambridge and Bedford Street. I've asked them before, when they were in front of us, that to please use the chain of command. If you do things, don't just be throwing your stuff up without, following the necessary protocols.
Wait, so is there a sign up on the corner and it hasn't been approved?
Exactly.
Well, so the event has not been approved. She called the office and gave the impression she had the sign. Someone in my office was unaware that it had not been approved. I came in after seeing it there, I wasn't happy that it was on before it was approved. So I talked to Paul about it this morning because I said we have to somehow rein that in. We will take partial credit for that because we have a lot of groups that come to us. They're upset that they can't be on the June meeting for something in October because they want to advertise, and we hold them back from that. She did not have her paperwork in time to be at the July meeting, which is why she was put on this August meeting. So it was 100% not okay that that sign is hanging before it was approved.
Yes, absolutely.
So Lynn made a good point, which is exactly my point, and I'm not trying to pick on the ice cream people or anything, but we've got numerous groups that come to us for use of the common. They just left. They were an example. They've asked us before if they could advertise their events in advance. Doug Place, you all know, comes to us every year for his group to urge support and awareness for debilitating spinal disease and things like that, the mama bear effect. All of these folks have asked for permission in the past, and we've politely told them that it's just not in our town common policy. There is a certain number of town-sponsored events that has been approved by this board. Now, what I would suggest to the Sculpture Park Committee, because I almost kind of feel like they're really kind of a town committee, I would suggest, my advice to them would be to prepare a warrant article, bring it to town meeting, get themselves recognized as an official committee here for the town of Burlington, describe their mission statement and the composition of the volunteers and who's going to do the appointing and all that stuff. We don't appoint them every year.
They're a subcommittee of the planning board. That's how they get around that.
Subcommittee of what?
The planning board.
Mr. Chairman, may I suggest at your next meeting, we'll put together a list of the annual banners that have historically already been voted on to appear on that corner. And then we'll discuss with the rec department and our office a process for new banners to be approved, similar to how you approve events on the town common. And we'll get the board to approve an annual list of stuff that just goes up there, a general schedule. And again, we'll work out the process with recreation so that we don't have any hiccups going forward, and any sign that is flown there will have been authorized by the board.
And let's just make it very clear to everybody. Jim, I see your hand. Let's just make it very clear to everybody that if we find a sign in violation, it's coming down immediately. Asking for forgiveness versus permission is not how we do things. We follow the process. If we don't like the process, we have a conversation about it. But we don't just go doing things because we feel like that's the right thing to do. So please, this goes for everybody. Don't do that. It makes it more difficult for everybody when somebody wants to go through their proper channels and do something, and then we have to come in and play bad cop, because somebody doesn't want to play nice. So this is an official verbal warning from me as the chair of the select board that I'm not gonna stand for that. So just an FYI. Paul, you know what would solve that is a digital sign on the common.
It's not a sign, it's a
municipal message board. I'm sorry, I had to. Jim, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't even aware of the sign on the common. I haven't left my house about 9 days now. But what I was thinking is, I don't know if it's possible that we can somehow secure the hardware on that sign with a chain, not a chain, but something that's not unattractive to keep people from putting stuff on there. Because I've noticed in the past, other signs that I know we didn't approve were up there, and let's at least look at ways of preventing someone from putting something up without us knowing.
There was indeed, in fact, the week before, there was a sign up there that was promoting the event. It wasn't even being held.
So it's getting out of control. So
All right,
I'm not targeting any individual.
Yeah, before we start discussing the logistics of something that's not on the agenda.
Yeah, please.
Let's go ahead and take this offline. Paul, maybe you can help us out, lend some information around, or things that we can be doing better, and then we can put it on the next agenda for official discussion. I know that this was like a subset of the agenda item that we allowed, but let's not take it any further at the moment, okay? All right, and thank you all for raising, because I was also unaware. Block parties, 596, 26 Princeton Road.
We have
somebody-
595, we skipping that one?
What is it?
Sahili.
Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. Geez, you put one check mark in the wrong spot. 595, use the town comment for Sahili. We have anybody here for that?
Didn't we, I'm trying to think back, didn't we get Sahili and Diwali?
That was the thing.
That was the.
No, that was
AGB.
the prior thing. So this is, all right, so, I'm not seeing anybody at the moment, which is okay. So let's just review this real quick. We've got the day of the event for October 22nd at 9:30 a.m. It is not a private event. They've got some advertising. It's for Sahili. We know Sahili. This is their annual domestic violence awareness walk. They are requesting use of the gazebo. They're expecting about 100 people.
So it's 2 events.
Oh, I see.
Sorry, you just
No,
combined
that's
those.
okay. That's all right. So there's the first event, which is the domestic violence walk, and then they're asking on October 3rd, beginning of the Domestic Violence Awareness Month, for decorating and lighting the event.
So they did it last year. They, the police department gave them permission between the police and recreation, 1 tree they lit to kick off the month. And then later in the month, they would like to do this walk again, which they also did. The police department is working with them. Deputy Kirshner is going to give us anything. He has no issues, but he's working with them as it gets closer.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Lynn. Anything further on that, Lynn, Paul?
No, just 2 separate events, the tree decoration, and then the second one is the domestic violence walk.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, any questions? Jim, I see your hand up.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, with these events in October, should we just give them an opportunity to come to the next meeting or another meeting, to give them enough time, because it's 2 events and we have the time.
I mean, knowing that.
I don't mind approving them tonight without somebody here. If the board feels differently, though, let me know. No? Okay. Jim, anything else? Okay.
Okay.
Mike, anything?
No, I'm comfortable approving this and allowing staff to work out any details.
Okay. Mike, Joe, anything?
I'm comfortable with approving.
All right. 2 votes preferred?
I think you can vote them
I think you can
together.
vote them together.
Vote together?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, gentlemen. If there's no other further discussion or questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Sahili's request for the use of town common on 2 p.m. on October 3rd and October 22nd at 9:30 a.m. for the aforementioned activity events.
Second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Mr. Tigas? I see, I'm assuming your hand up is yes? Are you?
Seven audio issues.
All right. Thank you. I know, it's a pain.
Yes.
Mr. Reddy, yes. Mr. Espejo?
Yes.
Mr. Morandi?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That's 5-0 for both events for Sahili. All right, now we're moving on to the block party. 596, so I can read correctly. 26 Princeton Road. We have somebody here for that?
Yes, I'm here, Steve Buckley.
Mr. Buckley, tell us about your block party.
There's a couple of wives, neighbors that all have birthdays around August, early September. And we wanted to kind of get together in the neighborhood. We live at the bottom of the dead end of Princeton Road. And we kind of were brainstorming this summer. We thought it'd be nice to include everybody in the area. So we talked about coming up to do like a little block party. And, we moved in here 2 years ago. So it'll be nice for everyone to meet us and meet everyone else further down the street that you don't get to see often. We're gonna have food, bring your own drinks, we're gonna have waters, we have a little bouncy house, there's kind of little odds and ends, nothing too crazy.
Excellent. Gentlemen, questions?
Did you say bring your own water?
No, bring your own drinks, but we're gonna supply water.
Bring your own water.
Maybe, yeah.
Hoses out the street.
That's not the puppy, I remember.
Joe, I'll bring out the hose for you. You come down, I'll give you the hose.
Oh my God, I'll just have a burger. I'm good. That's all I had.
Okay. Mike, anything?
Nope.
No, it's fine.
Okay. Jim, anything?
Just one quick question. How about, do you have, barriers? Do you have them available?
I do. I work for a large construction company, so I have a road closed sign. So there's 3 houses down towards the dead end. So we're gonna put the road closed sign there, and kind of keep people from driving down the street. Yep, absolutely. It'll just stop the 3 houses down next to me.
No, I think this is a great idea, and I said at last meeting, I think more and more neighborhoods should do this. It's a fantastic way to get to know your neighbors, and, you know, it's a great event.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I feel like this is the 3rd or 4th block party we approved this year, which is it's great to see neighbors getting out and you know, not only get to know each other, but you know, having a good time.
Yeah, the feedback we got from everybody, everyone was super pumped. No one in this area, I guess, had ever had one before, and everyone's excited to kind of mingle with people they don't get to see often.
Love it. All right, gentlemen, if there are no other further questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the block party at 26 Prince Road on October 21st, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Tigas?
Aye.
Mr. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Morandi?
Yes.
Mr. Spaho?
Yes.
Chair votes aye, 5-0-0. Steve, congratulations.
Have fun.
See you again.
Thank you very much.
All right, 597, our second block party of the evening, College Road. Do we have somebody here for that? No? Nobody?
Nobody?
The chairman, has been an ongoing event for
5 years, if not more. I'm not aware of any issues in the past, and I would be prepared to make a motion to approve the request tonight, even though we don't have anybody in attendance here.
Okay. If there's no objection to that, I don't mind moving it forward. Okay.
Second.
All right, discussion, questions?
I thought you made a motion, sorry.
Anything? No, it's okay. Any questions or comments? I just had one question about, because it's on College Road, how they blockade it. I don't remember.
Police and fire didn't have any issues.
Okay.
Whatever they must present to them is acceptable.
Okay.
I think as long as it's a temporary barrier that can be moved aside for public safety issues.
Sure, okay. Yeah. I was gonna say, the College Road seemed familiar. I remember approving it in years past.
Yeah, most of the items and the tables and things were actually on
In
the
yards.
driveways and yards
Yeah.
and stuff like that, but there were some access, I guess, to the different homes on the road.
Okay. All right. Well, gentlemen, if there are no other further questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion to approve, block party, College Road, block party request for September 17th from 4 to 8 p.m.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Tigas?
Aye.
Mr. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Morandi?
Yes.
Mr. Spaho?
Yes.
Chair votes aye, 5-0-0. All right, moving right along, 598, approval Total Wine change of manager. Do we have anybody here for that?
Yeah, Trish is on.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Oh, Ms. Harlan, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Chairman and members. Attorney Trish Farnsworth, and with me is Brendan Quirk, the proposed manager. And this is for Total Wine. Brendan's right there. He's been with Total Wine for 2 years, as you can see from the application, and more than 21 years in management positions with Walmart. HIP certified and has the Burlington alcohol server ID, of course. And so, you know, we submit he's suitable to be manager. So if you have any questions, Brendan can certainly answer them.
Okay, gentlemen, any questions? No, I see no from Jim. Anything
You know,
here?
being on the alcohol circuit, I mean, this is a standard that we do all the time, so this kid's been around a while, so it looks pretty good.
Okay.
So no questions at all.
Paul, Lynn, everything, any questions or anything to say, or all paperwork in line? Okay,
Everything's in line, Mr. Chairman.
great. All right, well, if there's no further questions, comments, or discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to change manager at Total Wine.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Tigas?
Aye.
Mr. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Moretti?
Yes.
Mr. Spano?
Yes.
Chair votes aye, 5-0. Fastest vote of the night.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you both for coming.
Thanks.
All right,
We have
599.
a public hearing for the change of ownership of Burton's Grill. I'm gonna, here we go. It's been a while since I had a public hearing. Here we go. I'm gonna open the public hearing, no motion being required, but I do need a motion to approve the notice as written or as advertised, we'll say.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Tigas?
Yes.
Mr. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Moretti?
Yes.
Mr. Spano?
Yes.
Chair votes aye. It's 5-0 to approve the notices advertised. Okay. Who do we have here for the change of ownership?
My name is Gregory DeMarcus. I'm an attorney with offices in Lynn, and I'm here on behalf of Burton's Grill of Burlington LLC. There's going to be a change of membership interest at the parent level. The sole member, the sole owner of the licensee, Burton's Grill of Burlington LLC, is Burton's Grill LLC. And the people who own that, have the membership interest in that, are transferring their interest. And so the sole owner of Burton's Grill LLC is now going to be Burton's Grill Holdings LLC, and then two LLCs, one an equity fund and another LLC will own 100% of the interest in the grandparent. This is part of a 22 restaurant transfer. Burton's Grill LLC is the owner of 11 restaurants in Massachusetts. 7 are Burton's Grills and 4 are Red Heat Grills, and 11 restaurants in the Eastern Seaboard from Connecticut all the way down to Florida. And because of the size of this transfer, we did the inverted process, and we've already been before the ABCC, and they've approved this application. Now, so in addition to the transfer of the membership interest at the parent level, we're asking the board to approve a change of managers. The 3 current managers, Jack Doyle, Kevin Herron, and Denise Herrera, will stay on for now. And then there'll be 2 new managers added, Anthony Ackle and Mitchell Kahn. So it's going to go to 3 to 5. Once this whole transfer is approved, we'll probably have to come back to you again to take out the 3 old managers and just leave the 2 new ones in place. So today, but there's going to be no other changes at the licensing level. The manager and the license going to remain the same. The hours are going to remain the same. The trade name Burton's Grill is going to remain the same. The menu is going to remain the same. The whole operation is going to remain the same. This is just a membership transfer up the ladder, and it's throughout the 22 restaurant chain.
Okay.
This is a fun one.
Oh, yeah.
Paul, any comment on this?
Yeah, this is not a transaction that typically the board gets too in detail on. It just relates to the ownership as opposed to the operations of the facility, so.
Okay. And all the paperwork's in order?
Yes.
All right, Jim, any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Gentlemen, anything?
I'm going to say that ABCC is probably better qualified to review this applicant than I am, and I trust Attorney DeMarcus has said they've done that, and on no issues with it, so I'm prepared to move forward.
Okay. Joe, anything?
No, nothing, no.
Mike?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. If there are no further, so I'll pause for a moment. It's a public hearing, so if anybody in the public wants to speak now, speak.
Make a motion to close public hearing?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Mr. Tigas? Mr. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Moretti?
Yes.
Mr. Spaho?
Yes.
Chair votes aye, 5-0-0 to close public hearing. All right, any further discussion on the matter? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the change of ownership for Burton's Grill.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Tigas?
Yes.
Mr. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Moretti?
Yes.
Mr. Spaho?
Yes.
Chair votes aye, 5-0-0 for the change of ownership. Attorney DeMarcus, thank you very much for your patience this evening and coming out. You are all set.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. All right, next up, item 600, approval, small cell regulations. Paul, you first or Jim first?
Jim, do you want to take it, or I'd be happy to?
I can take this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The small cell committee reconvened, and after a couple of issuances on the rights of way, we knew we would come back and try to tweak the policies and to be beneficial to the town as we progress. And we've noticed a couple of things that we needed to change. Nothing too outstanding. Some of it was grammatical as far as the policies referring to the it was a board of selectmen, and now we're known as the select board. So those will be changed. There were a couple of itemization, like the sub in the paragraphs, the letters had to be changed a little as far as paragraph C, paragraph D. But the big change that we made was that now, instead of the town taking on the cost of the peer review, we are now having the proponents, or I should say the applicants, pay for the peer review. So that takes a big chunk of change off the town's shoulders and puts it with the applicant. So it's pretty much the same policy with the grammatical changes, but the big thing is on the application process, which is paragraph 1, section B, applications must be accompanied by a check in the amount of $3,500, etc. We're basically getting a payment upfront by the applicant to conduct the peer review. And again, if that's too much, then we obviously refund it. And if we need more, then they have to, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, then they have to pay additional?
Correct. They would have to pay for the cost of our expert, in this case, Mr. Maxon, who advises us on the technical aspects of the small cell installation. So if it were to go over 3,500, they would pay for that as well. If it goes under 3,500,
return the funds to the applicant. So it's a very common procedure over at the planning board when they have experts. And again, we've had 2 installations now, and we thought it was the right time to get this change on the books. We'll also be asking the planning board to vote these changes as well at one of their future meetings. And other than that, as Jim mentioned, it was more or less grammatical corrections from Board of Selectmen to Select Board. So, and the committee's doing great work. I know that they have some other ideas of potential changes for the future, but those will be brought back in a different version of the document. So.
Okay. Jimmy, anything else on that?
No, that's it.
Okay. Paul, Jim, whoever can answer this. With regards to the over-under of the 3,500, is that in here? Because I don't see that in B.
It's a deposit, Mr. Chairman, so it's intended to just sort of cover the costs. We did a run out of the past 2 installations, and we feel that that will be a sufficient amount to pay for the expert advice that we've been given.
Okay, all right. Gentlemen, any other questions? Joe?
Nope.
Mike?
Nope.
Mike? No. Okay. All right. Well, seeing no other questions, I will entertain a motion.
Like your motion.
That we approve the amended application for small cells as presented.
Second. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Jim?
Aye.
Mike? Yes. Mike?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
The chair votes aye, 5-0-0. Thank you, Jim, for your work on this and the rest of the small cell committee. All right, 601, 9/11 Memorial Recognition discussion. Joe, I turn to you.
We have a plaque. We don't happen to have that with us, do we, in the room? No? Okay, so there was a plaque that was designed to recognize the Bagney family. I know there's a lot of people involved with the 9/11 Memorial over there, but the Bagney family did something extraordinary. Jody Construction and Bagney Electrical supplied everything for that cement pad that's over there. All the electrical, the lighting, the lights themselves, not one penny from the town. So there is a plaque, I don't have it with me, I would have read it, but that's my fault. So that's going over on the common, it will be there on 9/11 for a ceremony. So I just wanted to thank the Bagney family for what they've done for that. As long as everyone has a complete donation, which is, how many tons of cement is over there now? It's all colored cement, which has got to be astronomical amount of money to me, you know, so.
Here, wonderful donation.
Yeah, a thanks from the entire board to the Bagney family.
Huge thanks.
They've done with that memorial. I mean, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, truly does. There was a lot of other people involved with it, the people that, that got the two pieces of metal, how it got here.
Yep.
Who, you know, there's a lot behind it, but those two guys really put a lot of their own personal money into this. So that was it. Thank you.
Okay, subcommittee reports. Mike, you want to start?
Yeah, again, I want to reiterate congratulations to our Indian American community on their 75th anniversary of independence from England. And the nice part, I was doing some reading about this before I had to write my little remarks today, and that Gandhi did this with through nonviolence, which is I was saying, oh, it's similar, just like America. We took our independence from Britain. They did too, but they did it in a nonviolent manner, and it kind of changed kind of the way some of the stuff was looked at and done, and it's a really beautiful thing today on the Common. I hope they're all celebrating. I also want to acknowledge the passing of former DPW Superintendent Shamal Shahuri, just a great, wonderful man. And if anyone hasn't read his obituary on the Sullivan Funeral website, if you don't know much about Mr. Shahuri, what a wonderful life and wonderful, wonderful guy, and his dedication to the town is unmatched. And I truly believe that Burlington's a better place because of Mr. Shahuri. It's a huge loss. So my deepest condolences to his family, his friends, my thoughts and prayers to everyone who knew him. I want to give a couple kudos. A couple to everyone involved with Safety Night at Wegmans. What an awesome event. Police, fire, DPW, what a crowd. I only could stop in for a second because we had our planning board interviews, but just a phenomenal event. And seeing the kids just getting in the police car is just awesome. And I know we're running, I'll keep it quick. Just kudos to Parks and Rec for a wonderful Celebrate Burlington event. I know everyone was disappointed by the fireworks, but hopefully we can get those rescheduled. Just another great event for the town. What a great week that was with both of those events. So kudos to everyone. What a great time to be in Burlington. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. Joe?
Nope, not good.
All right.
Good.
Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we've been here a long time tonight. I'm going to go quickly through my DPW update. Summertime, as you know, is construction season around here, and I think we all have seen various projects going on in our neighborhood and so forth. So first and foremost, the new DPW facility at One Great Road is substantially complete. Small punch list being developed to be ready to occupy in the fall. MWRA Phase 2 connection work is ongoing in Lexington. That project is approximately 40% complete. Mill Pond PFAS filter upgrade, that continues. A lot of activity down there. Paving, most of the streets are all done. There are two left, Mountain Road and Garfield Circle. Over the library, you may have noticed a lot of work going on in there. There's going to be paving, improvements to the walkability and add granite and curbing and so forth. So that's moving along kind of nicely. Sunnyside Ave, water and drainage. Folks that live up there will be happy to know that that work's going to start in September. Stream cleaning at Fairfax, Hilltop, and Sandy Brook is ongoing. Sidewalk, here's a big one, and Mrs. alluded to it earlier, Mrs. O'Brien, the bottom of Pete Orchard Road. The reconfiguration of that intersection is ongoing. A lot of work down there. That should be a huge improvement for the neighbors that live down there. French Wyman Pump Station, you've probably seen this sign saying French Wyman be closed, and then it says no, it's not closed, and that's closed again. So there's been some delay from the contractor. He had to respond to a project out of town that he had been working on. So a lot of activity, as typical. If it's not winter, it's construction season, and we are at it mightily, as you might expect, as you've witnessed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not so much a subcommittee report, but I want to spin off the Celebrate Burlington. Celebrate Burlington is a day which was, I didn't make it because of the heat, but it's always a phenomenal time. We do celebrate Burlington that day. But after hearing what Mr. Morandi talked about as far as the 9/11 donation and what the Bagney family has done for Burlington, that's another way we celebrate Burlington. But in other ways we celebrate Burlington, we start looking at the people who live and work here. And I want to acknowledge, and I'd like to schedule something for a later meeting, that, and it takes me a second to set this up, but I want to congratulate the Boston Renegades. The Boston Renegades is a professional women's football team. They're part of the Women's Football Alliance. And this year they became national champions for the 4th year in a row. So why am I talking about the Boston Renegades? Well, one of the things that bring it back to Burlington is that one of our police officers, Melissa Cadet, is a member of the Boston Renegades. In fact, she made an amazing tackle during the national championship out in Canton, Illinois. So again, I want to acknowledge Melissa because she is part of Burlington that is part of this national championship team. So I hope at some point, well, if you see Melissa, congratulate her. But it's just another way we celebrate Burlington. And even on a more local level, we have a Burlington resident, Ronan Hannafin. Ronan is a football player. He's going to Clemson to study business, but he's also an exceptional wide receiver and safety in football. He's considered a 4-star recruit nationwide. Sports Illustrated voted him as the 82nd top best player in the country. And his position of wide receiver, they chose him as the 11th best nationwide. Ronan was recruited and offered full scholarships by 31 universities. And if I won't list the universities, but look at all the bowl games that we see in January, those are the teams that want Ronan. So he ended up narrowing down his choice. One of those teams was Boston College. And if he had gone to Boston College, which he didn't, he chose Clemson, he would have been playing with his brother, Shane, who's now the starting quarterback for BC. So he chose Clemson because of one of the things he chose is because of the hometown feel. And I think his time in Burlington is part of the reason why he chose Clemson, because of that hometown feel. So again, this is just another way we celebrate Burlington by acknowledging our residents who are doing great things here and then beyond. So Ronan Hannafin, congratulations. Angela and Dan Hannafin, you've raised a great family. Congratulations to you guys. And I'll call that my subcommittee report.
Awesome, Jim. Thank you very much. What a positive. I mean, how great. You know, just truly.
My Buckeyes were stellar.
They sure did. Yeah. Yeah. Another congratulations to the Hannafin family. That's awesome. Fantastic. Truly. And not to be outshine, but Melissa Cadet and the Boston Renegades. Again, I mean, truly.
Very cool.
Very, very. I mean, time and again, right? We see folks from Burlington going on to do pretty amazing stuff. You know, it makes you very proud to live here. Chairman's report. First up, just as a reminder, like we talked about tonight, I'm going to reiterate, please stop watering. I can't say it enough. Put the hose down. Go inside. You know, let it alone. Your yard will be fine. As an addendum to that, I just want to remind folks that while Burlington does not allow for the burning of things in one's yard. I know folks get comfortable and might do that from time to time. This is 100% not the time to be burning anything outside. We postponed the fireworks for Celebrate Burlington a couple weeks ago for that fact alone. It is very, 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 very dry outside, and we don't need loose sparks causing neighborhood fires. Up in my soapbox, please, folks, if you can, volunteer time to the town. We need volunteers for boards and committees and subcommittees and town meeting and all sorts of stuff. So please, you know, if you have a couple hours a week to give, or even a couple hours a month to give, please consider supporting the community in a really important way by helping to run the community. You know, it's for sure a thankless job, but we find ourselves in a position where we time and again are having blank ballots, and you know, folks who you know, for one reason or another move out of town and seats become available, and you know, we continually find a hard time to fill them. So please, you know, if you can, get involved. Lastly, a bright spot from economic development. Melissa and Ellen wanted me to congratulate the winner of our Name the Park contest. And I apologize because I am not going to say your name correctly, but I'm going to try. Nagapan Periyakurapan, and I do apologize, and please, you know, correct my pronunciation, was the winning choice to name the park Burlington Square. It was chosen from 116 entries, and we just want to thank everyone, including Nagapan, for participating. The Economic Development Office will be in touch with more information on your winning. So congratulations and thank you to all who participated. On that note, we will move to Town Administrator's Report. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you guys know, I was out of town last week, and it sounds like I missed a lot of great things based upon the other members' reports. But if I could, I would like to also share my thoughts on the passing of Mr. Shidori. I had the pleasure of working with him for several years when I came to work for the town. He was a character in the truest sense of the word, a brilliant man, and he will be missed. He really was a legend in this town, and he cared about this town, and he was just an absolute pleasure to work with, and I'm very sorry to learn of his passing. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen, we will be adjourning into executive session. So if somebody can read the motion provided, we can head to that.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to General Law C-30A S-20, Section 21A 6. The Select Board will convene to executive session after adjourning from general session not to return to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, as the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body.
Okay, motion made. Motion made and seconded. Roll call. Mr. Tigas.
Aye.
Mr. Runyon.
Yes.
Mr. Morandi.
Yes.
Mr. Espejo.
Yes.
Chair votes aye. 5-0-0. Good night, everybody, and thank you for sticking with us.